Hello, everybody. So we're about halfway through module 3, and our first game assignment, the prototypes in the book, are due this week. So at the end of the class tonight, we're going to have some time to address questions on that. There was a couple of things I wanted to go over. One of the, I guess, the first off relates to another assignment this week is the project proposal. At the end of the semester, you're going to make a game from scratch and put all the pieces together. I asked for original artwork. Again, I didn't get those grades up. I intended to have those first Blender assignments graded before making this comment tonight, but I wasn't able to get all the grading done over the weekend. But there's no quality requirement on the art. It just I want you doing something. So it doesn't have to be good art. It just has to be your art. Basically, if you do something, you're going to get all the points on all the art assignments, is what that's saying. So there is that requirement. It's got to be a full game from scratch. And the proposal of the game you want to make is due this week. So just a couple points about that. I guess the first one, in business situations, I'm not a big fan of templates. I would prefer to do everything from scratch myself. But in a classroom setting, I'm a huge fan of templates. Templates are great in a classroom, a learning environment, because that document tells you what to write and where to write it at. So that's what I asked for in the project proposal. Just go search for game project proposal templates. And you'll see a few of them there. And since we're in a classroom, remember to put free templates in front. Make sure you're finding some free ones, and then just look through a couple of those. And it's a template, so really it's going to come down to find one that you like the colors of. You look through so this one has a picture, and it kind of has an example, all the stuff, some spots to fill in, the conceptual part of the game, so the plot and things, the art, the development, the schedule, basically, support, and all the different parts of it. So as you look through templates, you'll see some different ones, and basically just find one you like the colors of and use that. So some with nice pictures, Microsoft Word or Google Docs. Some looks very straightforward, like a table. They'll all have essentially the same information. So just find one that you like and kind of fill out the template for what the game you plan on making is. Should be straightforward there. The other part, I guess, kind of relates to that. It also relates to the homework assignment this week. And you might remember in some of your other programming classes or software development classes, a common thing to include, you all can see the to-do list over here. I got behind on grading. I spent a long time grading and just was not able to get through everything. I guess I have a lot going on this semester, more than I anticipated. So this coming weekend, I will allot a considerable amount, a larger chunk of time towards grading when I set up my schedule for the weekend, because I definitely underestimated it this week. That's why the assignments haven't been graded here. In some of your other software development classes, you probably remember a common thing with the submission is to take a screenshot of the program, right? Put your program together, run it, take a screenshot, and submit that showing that the program runs. That doesn't quite cut it for a game. I think I put it in the programming assignments here. Because a game, a single screenshot isn't enough to see it running, right? We can't just see the input that was typed into the console and the output it gave. So in place of a screenshot, I did ask for a short video, a few seconds of you playing the game to show that it's running, which should make obvious sense. Is it's not a still thing, right? We don't just have a GUI that doesn't change, that the only change on the GUI is what shows up in the output box. We have an active thing happening. So we need to see that movement. So a little screen capture, and in Canvas, a recent update of Canvas, they added in some screen capture software. So it makes it really easy to work with. So if you, in your main navigation, the green at the side, if you scroll down to the studio link, you'll come to this page. And yeah, you'll notice up here in the right hand corner, it's just a record button. You'll see all the videos you've made, some filters for them. You can organize them into collections, essentially make folders to keep them organized, because they add up pretty quick. But there's a record button. And the very first time you'll get a message to download the software. You do have to download it the very first time. And then after that, it'll just start up right like this. Can you all see the record button in the lower left on my screen?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. Doing two screen sharing things at once. So I wasn't sure if some of it might have been blocked. So this comes from Webcast-O-Matic. They've been a popular one for a while. They have a free version that's pretty nice, and they have a paid for version that's even nicer. So this is the paid for version. They just went ahead and Canvas included the paid for version for the schools. They got a big discount since Canvas covers about 75% of schools. They put their product out to a lot of students, a lot of colleges and high schools. But it's fairly straightforward to use. You can set up the capture size. So if you want a small window, you can customize the section of the window you want to do the screen capture of. You'll see the box there, or you can switch back and forth, maybe just a particular piece of software or the whole screen. Choose a microphone. That stuff should be fairly straightforward. Some other settings. If you want to do both, the webcam, is this going to work? Yeah, I don't think both is going to work, but you can put your own webcam down in the corner if you want to do that, or use the webcam to make a video. That would work as well, but I don't think that's going to work at the same time as Zoom here for me. Then you'll just kind of hit record. You get a countdown and start making a screen capture. So I don't know, for a quick example, I'll just go over to Paint and draw a picture. Open up Paint and I'll switch over to the crown and draw a quick smiley face. That's probably enough for that. And you'll notice down here that it went back to a pause button, not a stop button. So you can pause it and put multiple breakpoints in there. And if you do several pauses along the way, you can jump back and forth between them to do some editing along the way if needed. Frankly, I've found it's a lot easier just to do stuff. Let me put a pause point in there to show you. So maybe record this. And I don't know, I'll put a big line on the smiley face. I was like, whoops, didn't mean to do that. So pause. And then we can jump back to the previous spot and redo the recording. Before we do that, I'm going to come over to the software here and get the software back where it was. And then skip. back to that previous point and continue recording over that last one. So sort of a cut. Again, get that countdown, and now we're in there and can add some other stuff in there. That'll probably work. It's good for this picture. And when you're ready, then pause it, and when everything's finished, you just hit done, and you'll get these options. Give it a name, class example 248, showing how to use Canvas Studio. And the upload button uploads it back to Canvas, or Ivy Learn in our case. Hopefully it won't take too long. There we go. So when we continue, I'll close out of this. Don't need that. You'll see that video's on here, so we can hop in here and start making a screen capture. So yeah, there's that screen capture video, so you have it there. But the important thing is, it's in our learning management system, so we can submit it right from here. So you don't have to do an external video and manage the storage and stuff. Once you have that video made, you'll come back over to the course and one of the assignments, which I guess it's going to show up in this week's assignment. So a quick screen capture of you playing your game. Oh, I have to go to student view. And when you go to submit it, you'll set a new attempt, and you'll notice along with the file upload, where you're going to upload your Unity project, there's a tab over here for Studio. And if you go over to this, you should see all of the options. Or am I not seeing the newest one? Oh, that's why. Yeah, I don't see that. I don't see that because it's on my account, not the test student account. But on yours, you will see all of the options to add it right to it. So you'll just select that. I'll just pick this one here, and then use that to submit that with your project. You probably don't need the media tabs. That's the comments at the bottom and some other features. And just hit embed, and that includes it in the submission. So yeah, then when you're ready, just hit submit. And what I would recommend is doing 2 submissions. I will see both of them. So do one with the video and then do another one with the upload file. I will see both of them, so it shouldn't be a problem, but I've heard that you should be able to submit both at the same time, but I know a couple times when it first came out, I hit some issues with that. So 2 submissions are fine. Do one with your file and one with the video. And if you use the Canvas Studio, you can just upload it right from there, which I'm on the test student account, the test student user account, so I can't actually see the video I just made. But when you're on there, you will see it. So it's actually any place we have a rich text editor, we can put those videos in over in the plugin. We'll be able to see it here. One of these options should be for Studio. Oh, there it is. So if we go to Canvas Studio, so this is kind of the same thing as that submission button. There we can see that video that was just made, and just select that, and Probably don't need the media tabs. That's comments at the bottom and other things that go in there, and just hit embed and it adds it right into that that descriptive thing. I'm going to cancel this. That's, if I left that there, that would probably make the assignment instructions a little confusing. So you'll want to do that with your submission is in place of a screenshot, so you can see the game running, because it's not a simple input output like you may have encountered in other software development classes. Oh yeah, and another use for those is we all think a little bit differently, right? If you just have a general task, when I go to run your software, I might not immediately know how to put the correct input in or something, and would see it crash over and over again. So having the screenshot gets around that issue, because you who know how to put the input in, who know how the input is supposed to go in and the program's supposed to run, can run the program and show it gives the proper output. So even if the instructor doesn't know how to, doesn't know how everything's set up, the picture still confirms that it does run. There's that and that. So next thing, I wanted to show a useful little tool here, which relates to our first project. I'm gonna go over to the book. I believe everybody's already seen the homework. If not, the programming assignments are the examples in the textbook, where we just kind of walk through something. Our first one is this apple picker. Is there a picture somewhere? So they use the Unity modeling tools to create a simple tree there. Just used a cone and a circle. It's like, yeah, that looks like a tree. That'll work for the game. I think chapter 16 had pictures from that. It's been a minute since I read the book. Yes. So there's the finished version. They didn't necessarily do anything super fancy. The apples are just spheres coming down, hitting the bottle, or falling into the basket, and the trees there. But we've looked a little bit at graphics, and trees are a really common thing, right? That's something we're going to want in a lot of games, usually in the background, but we probably want our trees to look a little bit better than that. And we're in luck because we're not the only ones that have wanted that, and it is ready to go in Blender. So I wanted to look at that real quick. So better looking trees, if you want to go ahead and use it in this game, it would just be a matter of swapping out an object from Blender for this. So I'm going to start Blender, and I have to go grab my other mouse because I forgot to grab my good mouse, or my normal mouse. And there you go. The little laptop touchpads don't work quite as well as a regular mouse with the middle button. That's the big thing, because we need that middle button to spin around, to do the panning, the spinning, and if we hold shift and the middle click, we get the panning. So those are kind of important ones to have. First thing, I'm gonna get rid of that default stuff. So I'll hit W twice to get the freeform selection. That's just, I prefer that little free shape to select items. And what we saw when we inserted that, we can insert a new mesh and join that, or a curve and build a lot of curves up into a shape. And we just go to add, and we can add in a cube, and we get a cube. But there's a little bit more going on there too. Before we get to the actual tree, I want to come over, and up here you'll notice there's more tabs than will even fit. So if you don't see all of them, you just bring your mouse up here, leave your mouse in the right area and scroll. And there's a tab called scripting. So if we go over here, you notice we have a Python console where we can type Python code directly. Something right below it, that'll be important here in a second. And then over here, we have like a text editor area where we can enter new code, type in a Python script. So if I come over here, oh, as well as the regular layout. If I come over here and do that same thing and hit add a mesh and add a cube, you'll notice down here in the lower left, another instruction showed up. Let me copy that over to the text editor and paste that in there. This mesh popped up. BPY, so that's Blender Python. So everything we would do for a script in Python comes from that module. So that's all of your Python scripts will start with import BPY because that's the Blender objects. I guess I should turn on word wrap. Under view, word wrap, because it's a long one. So ops for operation, a mesh object, and we have a add cube method. Hopefully that looks somewhat familiar from Python. Even if you haven't seen these objects, you at least know how to recognize the object and method in an object. The name of it, then parentheses, which would actually look almost exactly the same in C#. We just have a semicolon at the end. But a bunch of parameters that need filled. So are we inserting the cube in edit mode? I'm in object mode, so that's false. How does it line up? So using world coordinates, we're going to put it at this location 0, 0, 0 with a scale of 1, 1, 1. So whenever we do anything in Python, when we do things in Blender, it really is some Python code running in the background. And furthermore, Python's an interpreted language. That means those instructions run one at a time. So we can grab them along the way. And that's what, if you come over to the scripting tab, here's everything that's been done since we opened this up. Deleted those initial objects, or deleted those initial 3 objects, and added a cube. Then I deleted that. Then I came over here and added another cube. And then in the script editor, I switched the word wrap. So I turned word wrap on. And you can see all of those instructions showed up. So to learn scripting for Blender, one of the best ways to start is just to do the stuff in the view panel and then copy and paste that instruction. Whoops. I didn't mean to cut that out of there. Copy and paste that instruction over here where you can look at it and see what's going on with it. Whoops. Let me put that on a different line. Then you can look through and see what all those instructions are. So really it is just some Python code running. Like another Python interpreter? Not really, because Blender has gotten so big that they need a very customized version of Python. And oh, the question popped up, can you use another one? So what Blender does is, instead of putting together a manifest and doing all that stuff like we normally have with the installers that goes out and checks, make sure all the libraries are present and stuff, Blender just installs the version of Python they need. So there is a separate version of Python here. So if we come over here, another thing, where your cursor at makes a difference. Because notice I can type here, but if I move my cursor over to by the things, I'm pushing on the keyboard but the keyboard, the words are doing stuff over there, or the letters are doing stuff over there. So where your cursor's at matters. If we come over here, let's just stop version. So, well, this happens to be the same version of Python I have. I was going to open the Python interpreter and show I have a different one, but I just installed 3.10.2. So I happen to have the same ones, but if you pull up the version number, there's a good chance it's different than yours. So you would want to use this to do installs. So if you wanted, I don't know, what's a good one? TQ2DM, you'd have to import pip and use pip as a module here. So like pip install, which we get a warning message, and actually use pip as directly here, or there's a couple other ways to do that, but that gives a big warning message, says don't use pip like a module if we do it that way. So I probably shouldn't show that in class. But we can add the libraries here, or really that's a copy and paste. So if you have some other libraries you want to use, you'd want to copy and paste them into where the Blender is installed. So instead of automating the process, you'll just go to the Blender install, which I think is under program files. Yeah. And under 3.1, you'll see an installation of Python. So here's where all the libraries are. So like whenever you use pip or Anaconda, really that's just a fancy copy and paste. It has the ability to search through and make sure you don't have it already and stuff. But if you have another library you want to use, you can just copy and paste it into this folder and then you can use it. But that's a better idea. That's what you want to do. Obviously, we're programmers. We tell the computer what to do. So we are not restricted, and we can just have Blender look at our other version of Python, but you risk hitting trouble there, such as if you don't have all of the Blender objects in your other installation of Python. We cannot use 2 installations of Python. So it's better just to adjust theirs instead of risk missing something in yours, if that makes sense. So that's what's going on with this. And we can script, and like I was saying, a good way to learn that is just copy and paste. So after you run an instruction, just copy it over, paste it in there, and sort of examine what it's doing to get used to it. So there's lots and lots of stuff we can do. I'll come back over here. Well, I'll use this cube. We go in edit mode. We could make a tree, right? We've seen some of that. I'll hit E to extrude, just bring that up and maybe subdivide this. So I got like 4 different ones, and then E, extrude that up, something like that. S to scale it down, make it a little smaller. And then could just grab each one of these faces and move them. Well, it'd probably be better if they were separate. Let me go back. So if we were here, just grab, like, say, this face and E to extrude that up, and then over, and then this one, extrude that up and move it back, and this one, move it way over and down, and kind of put together a tree like that. Extruding, scaling. We could get something that looks like a tree before too long. But we can do even better. I'm gonna go back to object mode, which obviously that wouldn't be bad practice either. If you're brand new to 3D modeling, probably not a bad idea to do it that way. But it'd be really nice if we could just add a tree in like we do a cube. Or many other things, or a curve. And well, we've talked about vector graphics some. It's where instead of a image data where we have like pixel by pixel data, we have the equation stored there. And it just so happens that the equation for a tree is something that has been highly studied by biologists. It's a rather interesting equation to describe trees mathematically and how they grow. It's a very special type of bifurcation, but it's a well-known equation, which means computers could calculate it. So there shouldn't be anything stopping us from doing this. And well, you've probably noticed on Blender, there's lots and lots and lots of buttons. And there's even more in the default installation that aren't turned on. So things like that. So I'm gonna come over to Edit and Preferences. And under Add-ons, here's the other ones that are officially part of Blender that are turned off by default. And the one we want in this case is Sapling. So we have this button that's turned off by default for Add Curve for Sapling Tree Generator. If we expand it, we'll see the description. Adds a parametric tree. So it basically creates an Add Tree button. And there are lots and lots and lots of these and people building more of them. So when things are generalized, or in the case of trees, we're going to want trees a lot, right? Most of our game environments, a tree is going to be in the background, and we don't want to spend a ton of time drawing every single one of those trees. It'd be nice if we could just generate it and adjust some parameters to make them all look unique. So that's what this one does. So if you go to Edit and Preferences, under Add-ons, search for Sapling. And you'll notice there's no OK button or anything. So once you hit the checkbox, it's ready to go. And you'll see there's a whole bunch of them. People are adding things up. Geodesic domes, that's kind of a neat thing if we expand that. A more complicated sort of thing. More stuff with bones, riggings. The different types of imports and exports. So you can customize all this. There's one for gears, which is really useful if you're going to make little machine things, because you can have gears the same way, but it sets it up as a parameter. So once that sapling checkbox once you've checked that box, you come to the add, it's under a curve now. Under add and curve, you'll see sapling tree gen. So there's just inserting a tree. And down here in the corner, we always have this box that shows the last thing we did. It pretty much all has to be done here. Here's all the here's the parameters we can fill in on it. And there's actually lots of them. So we're getting ready to look through that. But I wanted to, real quick, first thing I want to show you, I'll make some changes here. Let's do inverse conical. Make it a little bigger. So we can just change these parameters to control what that tree looks like. But then when we click anywhere else, notice that little box went away. It's like, oh, wait, maybe not that last one. So I'm going to hit Control Z for undo. So Control Z. We can't get back to the box. We can't get back to the parameters. Undo, the last step was actually inserting that tree. So that parameter box is just partial things along the way. So under curve, insert this. There are a couple options. Like here, if I wanted to change the random seed, if I start dragging it, it's like, I don't like any of those numbers. I can hit escape and it'll go back to what it was beforehand. I've heard about that. You'll notice some of these change really quickly. If you hold down Shift and do that click and drag instead of typing numbers, it slows down the speed with which it does that. So you can make a change and then hit escape if you want to go back to what it was beforehand. That's the one you usually see on tips or whatever, but personally, I find it's more useful to, well, especially with an art thing, we probably want to look at it. So we can zoom and spin around and pan and stuff and get a good look at it. So what's a lot better is before you make any changes to parameters, make a note of what they are. And then if you don't like the change, you can get back to it. Because once you kind of set that in place and do something else, you can't get back to the parameters here. So by default, the box looks like this. It's hidden out of the way anytime we do something. So the question popped up, how did you get that box to pull up? So like if I wanted to move this, if I grab this tree and then a move operation, because when I move, we get this thing down here telling us what we just did. And that is an expandable box. So then we could manually type in the move. I wanted to move exactly 2 meters and control the parameters. So we have the same thing when we put this in here. But for almost all our steps, we don't have it for delete, obviously. So you just want to kind of go slow and carefully, but it gives us parameters to do this. So the basic geometry of the tree is the first set. And this is definitely something you're going to want to mess around with to get better looking things. Reverse conical or hemispherical. That looks more like an apple tree shape. The seed is sort of the starting value. I'm just going to adjust a random one. As you play around with it, you'll see different things. Fruit trees do better with more horizontal things. So I was just looking at these limbs. It's like, okay, those are kind of horizontal. That looks like a fruit tree. And scale it up or down, make it a little bigger. There's some presets. So we could, whoops, oh, not a willow. Something crashed out of there on me. Okay, so oh, don't save. I'll avoid that preset. Let me try that again. Don't save that. Back to a new one. Delete that. So yeah, could be bugs in there, but we still have that insert a sapling. Expand our little menu here, and then might have some. Looks like none of the presets are on this time. Maybe hemispherical, different scales. Yeah, there should be some preset ones, but that seems to be causing problems. So maybe avoid the presets. Or maybe yours won't crash. I'm not sure why mine did that. I tend to change things sometimes, so I might have messed something up. And set up a bunch of different things for the geometry of the tree, kind of get how we want it set up. I'll just stick with this basic one. There's some other presets that are good to start with. Okay, so in the chat room it says Willow crashed here too, but not the other Willow. And I can't even seem to get back to the presets. I might have to restart Blender because there are some good presets there. Let me just restart that and see if it works this time. Hopefully that's okay. Good. I was like, oh, hopefully that doesn't take too long here and to restart it. So get rid of that. Bring in a sapling. Nope, I still don't have the presets, so I'm not sure why they went away on me. But there's like maples. That's the one I find I start with the most often is the maple preset. I should have just clicked on the one that I'm used to using. But we have these other ones. I'll do like hemispherical, pick some random seed number. We can customize the shape a little, adjust it. You'll notice those move really, really quick. So you might want to hold down shift so that it moves slower when you adjust these values, because it only goes like 0 to 1. Scale it up, make it a little bigger. And those aren't the only parameters we have. Up here at the top, the settings, our parameters are all categorized. So the next one down after geometry, we have branch radius. The bevel allows us to kind of see the finished version, but here's the internal data if it's like in the way of other stuff. Change the resolution on it, make it sharper, clear, sharper, rounder, smooth. Yeah, either sharpen it or smooth up the resolution. Set some ratio between the tree and the branches, which again, it moves very, very quick. So if you hold down shift, it moves a lot slower. You can adjust that, get down to the right shape of tree you want. Branch radius ratio, kind of adjust, you can see it just how quickly it fades down. Sort of the minimum radius, the flare on it, a whole bunch of different options that we can control what our tree looks like until we find branch splitting. This one, you'll notice that as that number goes up, we get more of the little twigs at the end, and down we don't get as many twigs. So probably want some there. And split up at the base of our branch, or make fewer big branches, and we get all control from these parameters. Trunk height, kind of separate where the branches start coming out. Split height is how far, well, you can see what it's doing. It changes where that's splitting at. I think I got a little ways from the tree I was trying to make, just kind of randomly doing stuff here that might work. That'll probably work. Just going over there, and a whole bunch of parameters to fill out. So you're going to want to click in there and see what each one does. Branch growth, we control more about how it grows. We can set up parameters for, like, if it's a well-pruned tree versus a naturally growing tree. Armature has to do with animations. We'll see that soon. Armature and animations will be similar to what we do elsewhere on those. And then last objects is, I want to look at is leaves, because we probably want some leaves on there. Pick a shape for them. Hexagonal is probably good. Or you can, if you, in the case of an apple tree, if you drew an accurate model of an apple leaf, you could just bring that in and use that for the leaf. And you only need one. The computer will calculate all the number you need. Here we can cut that number, change that number, get a lot of leaves or just a few. Different shapes for them, and which direction they're hanging, the angles, like downward or upward or outward, and lots of parameters that we can control. And once we're happy with it, like, okay, that'll work. We're going to select it, and notice that the leaves and the tree select differently. So when we go to apply materials and the more advanced materials that we would start to call textures and stuff that we will see later. And that's our little circle button here. Always makes me think of the radioactive sign. We can add a new material, just like we saw before. Add a new material, maybe call this bark to keep track of it. And for now, choose, I don't know, a brownish color, which isn't really accurate. Right? If you look at a tree, trees look gray, but there's a cultural aspect that's beyond even America, that if you're drawing a tree and you put gray bark, it doesn't seem right. Even though in the real world, we all know that trees have gray bark, not brown bark. So sometimes there's cultural expectations we need to meet with stuff like that. And then we have these other ones. So tree bark's not going to be very shiny. It's not going to reflect light at all. So turn down the specular. I'll turn the roughness up quite a bit. Don't need any sheen on it. Maybe some anisotropic, just a little. Probably not a clear coat. I'll turn a little bit of transparency on. And we define that material until we get it. If I go over to actual rendering, well, there's no background or anything, so the rendering looks a little funny. But for starters, again, we can treat our materials as colors, and then maybe add like how shiny the color is. Be a good start for it. And same thing for our leaf. We can just kind of pick a green one. So we'll select a leaf, and notice that all the leaves are one single object. Create a new material, and we want to keep track of it because of this tab we looked at earlier, the scripting tab. It's a whole lot easier to deal with things if they have useful names, right? The whole reason we use variables when programming is those useful names. That on our leaf, I'll make it sort of a dark green. I'm going to add just a little bit of metallic tint to it, maybe quite a bit of specular. The specular, and then is it going to have the absorption and reflection? That's why there's two of them. Same thing for anisotropic. The absorption and reflection. Which, yeah, I guess we can't really see much color difference there. If I go to rendering, very, very subtle. That makes more of a difference when we have a texture and the computer actually processes that as different levels. That's like when things are sunken in, like real surfaces. Oh, like the surface of my hand, right? Those grooves where my fingers bend are different colors than the rest of than the other skin on the finger, even though they are, it's still the same color of skin, right? We would say that's the same color, but we can look and see there's a difference in the color. That's what your anisotropic value is. So it has a lot more difference when the computer knows that that's not a smooth surface. Sheen is reflectiveness, transmission, alpha is still transparency. So we have all those different items we can use to control it and make a really good looking tree really quickly. So it's definitely something you're going to want to mess around with. I'm going to move this over to the side. So let's move this one. Again, we always have this so we could manually enter the parameters. And I want to move that out of the way because usually in our current game, the apple tree is the main focus. So that can make a much better apple tree than what the book said to use very, very quickly. I did one in 28 seconds the other day that looked about like this without explaining it, just insert it, quickly hit a couple of the parameters I knew I wanted, then threw some colors on it, and in under 30 seconds had a passable tree. So we can do it very, very quickly. But if we're doing for like the environment in a game, that's probably still, we don't want to do it for every single tree. So again, scripting comes in very handy for that. So if we create a new script, and I'll just do the same thing here. I'll run the layout, I'll go to add a new tree. Only this time, instead of messing with this, I'll come down here and copy that last instruction that was run and paste that in here. Again, turn word wrap back on. And here you'll see we have, there's all those parameters in script form. So since everybody in here is a programmer, this is probably the part of graphics you want to get to. Right, we started with the drag your mouse around stuff, like an artist would do, but it's something we control in Python. So if we had a forest, hopefully it would make sense to do, if we say I in range of, I don't know, let's do 1,000 trees in a forest. We do that. Word wraps on, so that's why the indenting looks weird, but you'll see it is an indented line. And you'll also notice that it is just one function. So we can barely see the highlighting, but you can kind of see there when I put my cursor at the end, that first parenthesis highlights. So that is just one method with a whole bunch of parameters. And then we could easily change those numbers on every pass through the for loop and have a unique tree, and just have that one method that inserts lots and lots and lots of trees. And it looks like, to make that script work, we would just import BPY. And I'll change the position. So what do we have? Do update, show leaves, length, branch curves. Length, branches, curve. Well, I don't see the position in there. So actually, we might need to do one other thing on that for loop. Remember, it always inserts where our 3D cursor is. So if I move the 3D cursor to somewhere else, there's the, oh, no, that's not it. That would work. Let me insert one over here and see. Yeah, something in the chat room just suggested insert one and see where it goes. Oh, it looks like it just did the same thing. So let me, so it put it in that same spot. So let me just move that. There we go. So there's our normal move instruction, which has a lot to it. But we know that's the instruction to insert a tree. We could go through here and adjust some of those numbers, but y'all know what to do there, right? So make that instead of 55 times I, make that 12 times I, so that all our trees get different number of branches and different curve lengths or curve resolutions or custom shapes. And we can just adjust all those numbers based off our counter, some normal Python stuff. And then our transform, yeah, so we have the orientation, the global thing, the orientation matrix. So, you know, there's a lot of those seem like the good optional parameters. The value of the move is the one we want. So let's make this 2 times I and 2.5 times I. So that should be very, very straightforward. I'll come over here to the thing and delete these trees that are here. You see, it's just a matter of inserting the trees, adjusting the parameters, and as a script, if we run that script, do I have to save it now? Oh, this might take a minute. Yeah, there might be some other things we need in the script. I just kind of wanted to introduce you to this. So maybe I shouldn't have done it 1,000 times, because I don't really have a way to stop it except crashing the program. Yeah, probably should have started that with 10. Not sure what I was thinking there, but do you all see the core concept there? So I can go ahead and crash the program and then we'll go take a break. And then it's just a Python script to insert lots of trees. So my computer's starting to make noise. Even on the solid state drive, it's still oh, no need to report the problem. I know exactly what the problem was. I was not careful when I ran my script. Probably should have run that 10 times instead of 1,000, or maybe even better yet, like 2 times to make sure it works. But the core idea to start with is once you turn that on, we have that insert tree button, and then we just hit a few parameters, which I still don't have the, can I type it? Nope. Yeah, I'm gonna have to look into why my presets aren't working. Usually I start with the maple preset and just adjust a few of those, turn your leaves on, adjust the parameters of those, add some colors, and you have a tree ready to go. Very, very quick, a whole lot quicker than drawing them all by scratch. That would probably work. So let me delete this one. So and notice the leaves are separate than the thing. In the chat room, there was a suggestion of reinstalling the add-on to see if that works. So I'm going to turn it off. And I'll restart Blender again because it doesn't seem to take very long to restart Blender. Whoops, not Google. But hopefully that the core idea of that, how to turn that into a script made sense there. It's just make sure when you all do it that you don't try to do 1,000 trees right off the bat. Start with like 2 or 3 to make sure it works and then come back to it. So if I turn that on, oh, and we can install scripts. So these are the ones provided by Blender, but GitHub has tens of thousands of artists and programmers have developed other plugins. So there are lots and lots and lots of things like that we can use. Oh yeah, and by the way, if you, for environments, which is probably where we would want trees, as of I might have to reinstall Blender to get the things working. I'm not sure where all my presets went, unless they're just not available here. Well, when your presets work, oh, I was looking at the wrong thing. I was looking at this. That's for the export button. Sorry. I forgot I could scroll down. I just noticed there was a scroll bar. So I guess my presets did work. A maple is what I find I start with most often. Maybe it's just from being in the Midwest, right? If we walk out into a forest in Indiana, we're going to see mostly maple trees or like hickories and walnuts and things that have that same basic shape as a maple. our fir tree. So there's lots of presets, but I was looking at the wrong thing. And when we set up a tree we like, we can give it a name and export that preset, which is another way to, along the way, since we can only do things, make small changes and then do that. Nope, still crashed. Willow doesn't seem to work, but most of the others, so like a small pine. And yeah, just adjust a few parameters until you get the one that you want. I'll copy this and a new one. I know I need to import BPY, and I'll paste that instruction. Then delete this and make sure it works when I have just one of them. There we go. So it works for one. So for I in range of say 3, yeah, a much more sensible number, we'll do that. And then we'll take and maybe move it. So there's our move instruction. Copy that. Paste that in here. And -1 raised to the ith power. So that way in even numbers, it's positive, and odd numbers, it's negative, times 2 times I. And a similar thing here. We'll take -1, raise that to the ith power so that even numbers are positive, odd numbers are negative. And then times 2.5 times our ith step. And hopefully only running 3 times work. Oh, another thing about scripts, make sure you give it a name first. So like testtree.py, you type in the box and then you hit save. So now when we go to text and save, we have that name here, because you can open different scripts and run them, but yeah, the run button's right here. Oh, there's our trees. So it looks like it created some. I only see one. Did they not move? They did not move. Let me try something. Oh, I bet I know what it is. We might have to just actually select that object. Yeah, we might need to do a selection or something, which why is that not showing up in there? If I go to edit mode. Oh, but well, I'll go through the process you're going to go through. We got a couple seconds before break. So you're going to go through something like select object in Blender, Python. That'll work. This is what you're all going to do, right? Jump over to Stack Overflow or whichever one I'm on. There we go. bpy.objects. They have a name. So, and notice that bpy.objects is a list of items with tags. And then we could call this select set to true. Well, those are all fancy ways to do it. Looking for something exactly specific. Looks like this is the line of code we want though, right? And grab something. So after we grab that, then we'll paste that, and then I'll do a simpler move. I'll just do I, so it moves out in one direction. So come over here, whoops, object mode, select everything and delete. And yeah, I didn't want to be any more than 2 minutes from now when we took a break, but you all know that process, right? Try to pull our stuff from over here. If we can't find it, then we'll just refer to it this way. And this cube object that it's referring to, that's in our hierarchy. So if I add one here real quick, notice we have a tree in our hierarchy. So that's the tag we're referring to, which is another thing. You probably want to rename those if you're going to do some scripting. But let me add another one so we can see how it names them. Add another one, and then we get tree.001. So it looks like our tag name, we'll ignore the first one and just leave it where it is. And then our second one we'll call tree.00 plus I. Hopefully that looks familiar to everybody who's seen some Python. That should be our tag name. If that doesn't work, I'm going to move on and do something else, because this was hopefully y'all got the idea of that, and you're going to mess around with it for a while to get used to everything. Kind of figure it out along the way. But we have buttons that we can work with, and then scripting can be a good option. That crash? Oh. And if you crash, go to window and the toggle one, 000 not found. So that didn't work the first time. If I is bigger than, if I is at least 1, then do that. Because we don't, 000 didn't automatically get stuff. So I'm going to delete this one. Try that again. And yeah, I meant to stop like a minute ago. Oh, so again, error message. Oh, I plus, that would work. Oh, well, we won't have the second tree until the second pass through our loop though. So we wanted to completely ignore the first one. In the chat room, the comment of I plus 1 popped up, but we won't have I plus 1 until our second pass through the loop, or we won't have tree number 001 until the second pass. Oh, for naming, that would work. Yeah. Let me see what my error message was. Object has no attribute select. So turn off that. So under window is the system console it's running in. Yeah, it brings in its own version of Python and its own console to run in. Blender has all of that. Did I copy something wrong from over here? Oh. That was 2.7. And on 2.8, it looks like they've changed it to .select set true. Let's see if that works. Oh, that worked. I was going to say, if that doesn't work, I'm going to go ahead and go to break because I meant to go to break about 5 minutes ago. Now, if we go back over in layout mode, you see that gave us 3 trees right in a row. So expanding that loop up will give us a quick way to fill out a background. And what's more, we can do most of that stuff came from inserting the object. So we inserted it, and then over here where it showed what code run, just copied and pasted that. So y'all can see if we just type in those parameters here, since everybody in this class is a programmer, you could easily change those off your I value, and every tree in your forest would look unique very, very quickly, just as quickly as running a script. Which scripts are, notice is Alt save, Control S does the whole Blender file. So save is Alt S instead of the normal Control S. Does anybody have any questions about that? So a way to make your trees for that apple game look much better. You can look around, you might find something to insert an apple. That seems sort of a standard shape. But fancier apples, you might have to draw yourself. Same thing with baskets. Baskets are so diverse that unlike trees, baskets do not follow a prescribed mathematical formula. Or if they do, nobody has studied it in depth like biologists have done with trees. The tree one is well known, and we'll need trees a lot. So hopefully that showed you how quick and easy we can put together from one tree to an entire forest of trees very, very quickly in Python. Any questions? Okay, I assume the silence means no questions, and I was intending to be finished with that by 10 after, just a couple minutes over there, but we got the script to work, so that's something. I'm going to send you that script so you can see, well, that one line that we weren't able to copy from the console, which is actually the interpreter that's grabbing lines as they go to the interpreter. So we're actually seeing the line go to the interpreter. So that one line we weren't able to copy is just the normal for our world, right? Jump over to Google and check Stack Overflow or Stack Exchange, or Blender has several of their own forums dedicated solely to Blender. And we can grab the code there and just learn it up in pieces that way. And then program our graphics, not just draw our graphics by dragging the mouse around, because we're programmers. So I was very anxious to take a step into that. And yeah, then y'all can, if you want to use trees like that, messing around and use that for your game at your apple picker game this week, that would be perfectly fine, because more is always acceptable for me. The assignment is sort of the baseline, but for now, it's probably a good time to take a break. Does 10 minutes sound good to everybody? Or anybody?
Yep.
All right, so 7:16, we'll get back to it at 7:26. And I'm gonna go grab some coffee. I'm a little thirsty after an hour of talking.